First of all, a wonderful evening, everybody. I truly hope you all are doing great. So, on behalf of Media Skills Lab, I extend a warm welcome to all the working journalists, academicians, and students we have with us today. Thank you so much for joining in. Well, today's session is going to be very interesting and insightful as we'll be enriched by the expertise of our esteemed speaker, Kathryn Cleary. So, even before we start with today's session, I would love to tell you all about her. So, Kathryn is basically a Cape Town based investigative journalist and media trainer whose work lies at the intersection of AI, health, human rights, and social justice. Originally from the United States, she holds a bachelor's degree in journalism from Rhodes University in South Africa. Her work has received remarkable recognition. She was awarded the Regional Vodacom Journalist of the Year award for data journalism in 2019 and went on to become the overall winner of the 2020 ISO Elile Awards for child centered reporting in Africa. In 2022, she was honored with the Distinguished Alumni Award from Rhodes University. Most recently, she was a Pulitzer Center AI Accountability Fellow for 2024-25, during which she produced a collaborative, data driven, human centered investigation into the global majority labor driving AI development and the hype surrounding AGI. Currently, she is associated with the Pulitzer Center's AI Spotlight series as a community coach, where she trains journalism students, academicians, communications professionals, and members of community media. Welcome, Kathryn, to Media Skills Lab. Tonight, we all are looking forward for an engaging session. Thank you so much for joining us, and over to you, Kathryn.
Thank you both so much for the very warm introduction. I'm very excited to be here, and what an incredibly pressing topic. So I guess I don't have to introduce myself. Thank you so much for that. So tonight we're going to be discussing speed versus accuracy, the AI dilemma in breaking news. So this session, I'm really looking forward to unpacking the ways that we can navigate the use of AI technologies in our work as journalists and as communicators. One second. So even before the age of AI technologies, would you ever publish a piece of content or a story in less than 5 minutes? If you weren't 100% sure it was accurate? Probably not, right? Because in general, this wasn't really possible, nor was it permitted by editors or any of our colleagues. Chances are, if you produced a story in less than 5 minutes, your editor might laugh at you, or colleagues might laugh at you and tell you, you actually need to keep working on this, or make sure your facts are correct. But now we face a very new challenge, or maybe we can even call it a temptation to use AI-powered tools in our work. So newsrooms are under pressure right now to be faster, more cost efficient, and more productive. So we've seen more and more that newsrooms are coming under budget constraints. Journalists are losing their jobs, or big groups of journalists are being retrenched. Media outlets, even very small community media outlets, are having to close their doors, and pools of funding are drying up. So journalism as an industry is at risk, but our jobs have never been important more than they are now. When we speak about artificial intelligence, let's commit ourselves to best practices and remind ourselves that AI is a grab bag term for a group of technologies that seek to simulate or mimic human level intelligence. And I really want to emphasize this. We're talking about technologies that simulate or mimic, right? And artificial intelligence, it's a really great PR term, right? I mean, if we let's un-PR that word. If we talked about fake smart, that doesn't sound very good, right? But artificial intelligence, right? Or simulated brain power, that doesn't sound very good either, right? So artificial intelligence is this really kind of awestruck word. Wow, that sounds amazing. But really, It's a group of technologies that are seeking to simulate or mimic something. There's also no singular AI. Okay, a lot of times we hear about, oh, the AI is doing this or the AI will do that. There is no singular AI. It is not this robot superpower, kind of transformer-like character that's going to come and take over the world. Okay, it is a group of technologies, and they have a wide array of purposes and use cases. So in our case as journalists, AI technologies do not verify information. They simply predict it based on patterns. You've probably heard the term hallucination when it comes to AI technologies, or in other words, when an AI model produces an output that's entirely inaccurate, it's made up. And that's exactly what we're talking about and what we need to be very mindful of when we use these technologies in our work. So as speed increases, so does the risk of being inaccurate. You can almost think about it sometimes as if you're driving a car. The faster you're driving the car, the more your margin for error becomes a lot greater, right? Sure, you're driving a really fast car, but if you don't hit the turn correctly, you might crash. Okay, so for anyone that's used an LLM or a large language model for any sort of task, you might notice that after inputting a simple prompt, you might be able to say, what day is it? Within seconds, the model will spit out paragraph after paragraph, bullet points, emojis, all of this information. But if you take the time to read all of it, how much of it actually makes sense and how much of it is accurate? How much of it is truthful? We've seen examples where major companies like Deloitte are relying too heavily on AI technologies and paying the price for it. In this case, Deloitte produced a report using AI-generated research. And a lot of times we call this AI slop, right? There's been other instances in newsrooms where journalists have used LLMs like ChatGPT or Claude, any of them, to write their stories. And they forgot to edit out key paragraphs that immediately told their audiences it was AI generated. There was a popular example of this circulating around LinkedIn a couple months ago, I think from a community newspaper somewhere in Southeast Asia, where the very last paragraph said, does this tone suit your newspaper style, or would you like me to regenerate something, right? And people freaked out about this. People were like, oh, almost thinking, oh, they should have edited that out. Well, not only should you have edited that out, it shouldn't have happened in the first place. These examples are only a few of the many ways that using AI technologies haphazardly can result in serious consequences for us, and potentially more importantly for our audiences. So I call this a risk matrix. And this is put together, this is wholly the brainchild of the Pulitzer Center as part of their Spotlight Series training, which at the end of this presentation, there'll be a QR code to look at the full curriculum for the training, which I would advise everyone to do. So this is a framework for using AI in journalism. So we can look at this and we can do our own risk assessment. So should I be using AI to do a certain task? So you want to consider whether the task you're doing needs low accuracy or high accuracy, and whether the generative AI tool's output will be internal facing or audience facing. So if I'm brainstorming something, so this is something I do in my own work. If I'm brainstorming a story pitch and I'm trying to make sure my pitch is solid or it's catered to a certain outlet, I'll go back and forth on my paid ChatGPT account and I'm just using it for my own purpose. Okay, I'm just brainstorming. That is low accuracy, internal facing. So that would be the sweet spot. Okay, it's not going out into the world. It's not, it doesn't depend on being highly accurate. I'm just brainstorming. Now, something to strongly avoid on the other end is high accuracy and audience facing. So looking at this, we can kind of decide what is the best use case there. So some examples might be, don't use ChatGPT to write an article. Okay, don't use any language models to completely write articles. Oh, and okay, hold on, I'm just checking. Is that better? Can everyone see things better now? Okay.
Yeah,
Sorry about that.
now it is better, I think.
Okay, great. So we don't want to use ChatGPT to write an article. Um, a safe zone would be using a model to filter down documents. An area to proceed with caution, using a model like Claude or any other model to summarize your source interviews. I'm sure most of us probably have used an AI-powered tool to transcribe interviews. But a lot of times you might find unless your source speaks with zero accent and speaks perfect English, there's a lot of errors that happen in transcription, right? So I'm in South Africa, I'm in Cape Town. A lot of times I'm interviewing people who are not English first language speakers. And if I put that through my transcription software, it's coming up with a lot of errors. So no matter what, best practice always, and this is what I did before these tools were available, is to manually sit with headphones in and listen and retranscribe, right? Because that does need to be highly accurate. So if you are going to use a tool like a transcription software, you can use it, but then make sure you do go back and you check. It's all about checking. Um, Similarly, with summarizing documents, chatbots and these language models can still hallucinate. They can still make stuff up, right? They're really good at making stuff up. So you want to fact check. And if there's anything you take away from this session, it's you have to check. If you're going to use these tools in your work, you have to check. When I was in journalism school and I was learning about fact checking, we had to learn how to, you check the fact 3 times. You almost find 3 separate sources to confirm the same fact. Okay, so, and as a rule of thumb, you just have to check things. Proceeding with caution as well. Let's say you use DALL-E to generate an abstract header image. Um, you can do that, but at the same time, you can hire a real artist. Okay, so AI technologies, while they can be helpful and they can be useful in certain cases, it's not going to replace the real thing. It's not going to replace the need for fact checkers. It's not going to replace the need for artists and graphic designers in our newsroom. It's not going to replace the need to actually transcribe interviews because you need to check it anyways. So, fact checking or detecting deep fakes. This is something that a lot of people say, oh, there are AI powered tools that can fact check or can detect deep fakes, or there's AI tools that can detect when AI is being used. There aren't actually any tools that can do this. Okay, so, and this is both a pro and a con. There's really no tool that can detect if AI was used to do something. Whether you're applying for jobs or you're submitting applications online, a lot of times they'll say, oh, if you use AI, we will know. From a tech perspective, they cannot know. But from a language perspective, from the way the content is framed, from the syntax, the sentence structure, they can tell. Okay, so this is the same for fact checking or detecting deep fakes. Unfortunately, this falls into a high risk avoid category. You need to be highly accurate as fact checking and detecting deepfakes is audience facing. So again, there's some tools that claim to do this or some form of detection or automated fact checking, but they're not accurate. And again, especially with fact checking, if you are trying to verify information, remember, AI technologies do not verify, they predict based on pattern recognition. So the best thing that we can do is to continue to use our existing reporting tools. Maybe we call them old school now. I don't know. I feel like I consider them the original school, which includes checking who shared the image, checking if the image has been published before, checking with on-the-ground sources, and of course, writing stories that raise awareness about how AI is impacting misinformation, disinformation, and journalism. Okay, so I mean, it's not all doom and gloom in terms of AI technologies. I pardon my personal perspective on AI tech. I've just probably investigated it too much. I have too many negative thoughts about the harms it can do. But let's walk through some examples where AI can be useful for us in a newsroom environment or in a reporting environment. One emerging use of AI technologies has been for classifying data and other information. Claude, which is a competitor to ChatGPT, recently in the last 2 years created a plugin called Claude for Sheets that helps users tap into large language models to do basic tasks, such as extracting emails or basic categorization of text. Why is this a sweet spot? Because generally speaking, chatbots are more accurate when structuring and filtering data than generating new data or summarizing data. Um, and data in my own work as a journalist is the sweet spot when using AI powered tools. So if you have a data set and you ask very simple, basic tasks, right? If you're not a spreadsheet wizard, if you don't know how to get something to work in a spreadsheet and you have a chatbot assist you with that, that is low risk and usually it's pretty accurate. Another way which AI-powered tools have been used is to summarize a lot of information. I did a training with students just over a month ago with journalism students. And when I asked them how they use AI-powered tools in their day-to-day work as students, almost all of them said they use it to summarize content or summarize readings. And while, again, it's not going to be 100% accurate. You're not going to get something that's 100% accurate. It can give you a gist. It can give you a digestible bite of information that's going to be fairly accurate. So in this example, this is a project that came out of New York. An engineer found it very difficult to navigate all of the New York City Council proceedings. And now we can think about this as well in local contexts. Here in South Africa, there's a lot of city council meetings, a lot of municipal meetings that happen all over the country. And usually communities would like to know what happens in these municipal meetings, and that information is very hard to come by. So this engineer said, okay, we need to find a way to make the transcripts from the city council meetings publicly available. So what this engineer did is that he took the transcripts and the video recordings of the meetings, and he used ChatGPT-4 to structure the transcripts into segments and create simple summaries of each segment. So the reason why this worked really well is that the summaries don't need to be highly accurate, but it allows a user to quickly navigate information, hone in on what's relevant, and then examine the full transcript, so have access to the full source. And the video, which we can consider in this case as the ground truth to verify. So again, why did this work? Is that this engineer used an AI-powered tool to generate summaries, but also gave the audience access to go find and verify that information. One more prominent use of AI technology is for coders. I don't know if anyone here with us today has a background in computer science or data science. I certainly do not, but this has been probably my personal favorite use of this technology in my own work. The investigation I did that was funded by the Pulitzer Center involved a lot of data analysis, and I didn't really know where to start. I had thousands and thousands and thousands of data points, and I didn't know how best to analyze it. So using my paid ChatGPT account, I started working with Python, and ChatGPT helped me code in Python and run the code and troubleshoot the errors in the code, which was really cool. So rudimentary coding, it can be really helpful for data journalists and other technologists in the newsroom. Claude and ChatGPT have proven to be helpful in showing coding solutions to common problems and explaining bits of code so that coders can implement the code knowing what each line does. But it does, of course, again, with everything, you have to double check everything. So with my investigation with the Pulitzer Center has a very talented data and research team, and all of the code, all of the analysis that I did on my own was double checked, if not triple checked, by the amazing team there. Okay, so we're going to look at a case study. So this is an interesting one. So this is how a newsroom decided not to deploy a generative AI feature. So in 2024, The Guardian decided to put Gen AI, a language model, to the test for particularly challenging tasks. So it was their live blog summaries. Roughly every 4 hours, its live bloggers needed to stop their actual blogging for about 20 minutes to write a summary of everything that had happened until that moment to catch new readers up. The Guardian wondered whether they could largely automate this part so its live bloggers could stay focused on reporting new information. They thought about two possible scenarios. One, they could use a language model to generate live blog summaries that an editor could quickly scan, correct, and publish. Number two, if the model was super reliable, they could then add a button directly to their live blog that readers could then push themselves, and it would generate a summary on the fly to catch them up to that point. As Chris Moran, The Guardian's head of editorial innovation, says, they didn't think it would actually work, but they still wanted to run an experiment. So they fine-tuned a series of different models with 3,700 Guardian live blogs using different tones and topics. They used the models to generate hundreds of live blog summaries, and then they asked people within the newsroom to evaluate each summary against three options. It's inaccurate, it's accurate but not important, or it's accurate and important. Now, something to keep in mind here, again, that language models will not do, because they are not humans, is nuance. There is no nuance with anything that a model is going to spit out. There's no nuance, right? And it's because they are mimicking, they're simulating, they're not verifying, they're just trying to tell you what you think you might want. It's trying to just respond to the prompt. So of course, over the month-long experiment, the models they fine-tuned, they got progressively better. Initially, in almost every single summary, evaluators marked around half of the bullet points as inaccurate and at least a quarter marked as unimportant. By the end, most summaries contained only around one inaccuracy and one important detail. Okay, so now keep this in mind. One inaccuracy, one unimportant detail. So in the end, they decided not to deploy the feature. And the reasons for this included, it's super difficult to catch a single error in a 400-word summary when you are live blogging. The Guardian realized that picking what is important to highlight in a summary is rooted in real-world context. And this goes back to what I was saying about nuance, which is ultimately not how language models operate. So while it performed well in experiments, it could perform unpredictably at scale. And I just want to go back to this point here because, again, we're speaking about one inaccuracy and one unimportant detail, but we're not speaking about that in terms of what the story is. If you're speaking about one inaccuracy in a story about health, human rights, or politics, that's life-changing. That can have real-world consequences, and that's when we need to be very critical about considering the social harms and the social consequences of using these tools haphazardly, particularly in our newsrooms. So whatever you decide on in your own newsrooms, in your own work, transparency is key. So you always want to disclose the use of AI to your audiences. You want to write about how you used it and what your audiences should know about it. This is why the London School of Economics Journalism AI program recommends that each newsroom comes up with an AI policy and that journalists clearly mark when they're using AI or republishing work that used AI, whether it's labels that show AI-generated images to describing in your methodology what AI tools you might have used. Given the heightened awareness of AI, any use needs to be disclosed front and center and in a way that signals transparency. So to quote the director of the Minnesota Journalism Center, you need to be able to communicate about it in ways that are not going to be alienating to large segments of the public who are really concerned about what these developments will mean for society at large. And what Benjamin is speaking about in this quote really is trust. Okay, so all of us right now as journalists, as communicators, even as journalism students, we're sitting in a very precarious information ecosystem globally, right? And with artificial intelligence sort of kind of taking over parts of the information ecosystem, we have to maintain the trust of our audiences. We work exceptionally hard to get that trust. And it can be gone in a flash. So if you publish something or you use AI tech in a way that can be damaging to that trust, that's going to take a really long time to rebuild. And it's also possible you can't rebuild it. So again, if there's anything that we take away from this session, it's that you need to be extremely careful with the use of these technologies. You need to consider whether you're using it for high risk or low risk, high accuracy or low accuracy output, and you need to consider what that could signal to your audience and how that could impact your audience. So with The Guardian, at the end of the day, they made a pretty great model. They made a pretty great tool that probably could have saved them a lot of time. But because it wasn't 100% accurate, at the end of the day, they trusted their original editors. They trusted their original writers, and that is key. So at this point, I think we'll open for any questions or comments. Thank you guys for your time. Those are my LinkedIn details, my email, and my Signal. You're welcome to reach out at any time. And again, this is the QR code for access to the full open source Spotlight Series curriculum.
Thank you, Kath. Anyone with questions? If you have any doubt, any question regarding the session, you can share your thoughts, your comments, and also your questions.
Yeah, this is Kamalika Senvita. I work for CNN News 18. Thanks, it was really a wonderful session. Just want to ask the presenter that which is better in ChatGPT or Claude in terms of checking an article or writing a summary?
So I am not super familiar with which models are best. I think for me, I always say if you can use a paid version, it's going to be better if you have access to a paid version of either of those tools. But additionally, it really is up to you as the journalist to the differences in the way that they produce summaries is going to be very marginal. All of these chatbot tools are performing at very similar levels in terms of summarization because it's considered a rather basic task. So for you, I would say it's not so much which tool you use, it's more so how you edit the copy and work with the copy in a way that's responsible and ensures that you are making sure that the nuance you need for your audience is there, which is something you have to add.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I have raised my hand. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, audible, Vinod.
Okay. Shall I
Welcome.
proceed with my question?
Yes, please.
So, first of all, thank you so much, Kathryn, for this insight. And what we have understood, my takeaway from this session is to use AI with a lot of care. It's not against the use of technology, but yes, keeping the human intelligence above the technology is something that I have understood. However, I'm not still very much sure as to which point. I mean, there's no clear answer as to which point we should use AI or technology to bring maximum accuracy. And the second part of the question is AI could be inaccurate, but so are the humans. humans can also be inaccurate. They have their own, biases, prejudices, and their own, way of thinking while they write any kind of content or news. So, don't you think that AI can help to come over this? This kind of problem, and how, if it can. So, to sum up, there are two questions. Can we reach to any point where we can say that, yes, we should use the technology to this level, and beyond that, we should leave to the human intelligence? And second, how can AI help, minimize the errors of humans that we made often, sometimes intentionally, sometimes unintentionally? So I hope I am clear with my questions.
Thanks so much. Those are really great questions. Let me start with the first one. So when to use AI technologies for maximum accuracy? My answer for that right now is that we can't do that yet, particularly in journalism. The technology is not good enough to be able to present maximum accuracy. The only time I would say, again, if we refer back to, I'm going to go back in the slides here, if we refer back to this kind of risk matrix, right? You're looking at high accuracy. I wouldn't use it to write an article. I would be nervous about using it without further oversight to summarize an interview. My recommendation, and what other journalists that I work with have also agreed on, is that for data analysis, for basic data analysis, that's where you're going to get high accuracy. But again, the technology is not yet at a point, and I don't think it will ever get to a point where you can use an AI-powered tool without having to conduct some form of human oversight that's going to create maximum accuracy. And again, in journalism, this is because chatbots do not understand nuance. That's not something that is part of what they do. So a chatbot cannot write an article for you understanding your community, understanding the needs of your audiences. Yes, humans can also be inaccurate. And I think what AI technologies have done is AI technologies have perhaps worsened a pre-existing mis and disinformation pandemic, right? We've been talking about this with the COVID-19 pandemic. We started talking a lot about mis and disinformation. Before I was reporting on AI, I was reporting on health. I still report on health. And we look a lot at how mis and disinformation has eroded trust in communities. And humans have done that. Humans have done that through the use of social media, through the use of very harmful social narratives. And now you have AI technologies which are making it significantly worse, right? It is like the icing on the mis and disinformation cake. I mean, we have big power players in the world that are creating websites where AI tools are creating disinformation and misinformation narratives. So I think my suggestion would be, we have to preserve trust, okay? And we cannot control what anyone else is doing, really, except for ourselves and people in our newsroom. And we have to hold ourselves to high standards as journalists to make sure that what we are putting out is of a high standard, it's of a high accuracy, we're being transparent with our audiences, and we're keeping our communities informed about the way that we are working. And one of the ways that we can, sort of help ourselves and help our communities is by informing our communities about what these technologies are, what they can do, and how they're being used. Again, AI, artificial intelligence, it's this buzzword right now globally. It's this PR word. Oh, AI can do this. AI can replace jobs. AI can replace doctors. In China, there's an AI-powered hospital. Okay, but what does that all mean in practice, right? And is it necessarily a good thing? You have a lot of communities that are very afraid of these groups of this group of technologies, and people in general are afraid of things they don't understand. So I think something we also have to do as journalists is to not only hold ourselves accountable to high journalistic standards, but to inform our audiences about what these technologies do, what they're capable of, what their limitations are, and reporting on them without hype. You know, we're not trying to fuel these hype narratives of AI development. We're trying to say plain and simply what they can and can't do, which is why I'm here today telling you ChatGPT cannot write articles for you. It can help you in a spreadsheet, but it cannot write articles for you. So I hope that somewhat answers your question.
Yes, thank you so much. I have got better understanding about my question. And in one sentence, I can say that AI can be a good servant, but a bad master. Thank you.
I also would like to add something here. Basically, AI models works on the basis of data that we provide as humans. So it is very crucial when we are in such a responsible position as communicator, as journalist. So it is our duty and responsibility to ensure that those data that we are engaging with, the AI models, must be away from any kind of bias. We must be transparent. We must have, we as human must be very integrated. We have to be very evolved while engaging AI models. So it is very crucial and very important for us to be very sensible about everything. Anyone else? Prashanto Kumar Shahu, please, sir, if you have any question.
Hello, good evening. This is Prasant Sahu from Ahmedabad, Gujarat. Hello.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Carry on.
Am I audible, sir?
Yes, perfect.
I have been a production journalist. I have worked in Times of India and Indian Express. And my experience is that AI is an assistant. AI cannot replace your cognitive learning, your experience, or intellectual capability. It is a good tool in assist you in some ways of your operations. Whether you write a story, you edit a story, you frame something, you structure something that way. It is an assistant. It is not your replacement. That is one thing. Another thing I would like to say, as Madam Kathryn said, for example, for some operation, there is a concept of low accuracy and high accuracy. As far as these two concepts are concerned, it again depends which AI tool you are using. Which AI tool is using. Say, for example, if you want to summarize a particular thing, say, for example, there is a 10-page budget document or 20-page budget document, and you want to particularly filter out the key information in 200 words, and you don't want any extraneous information to crop in, then perhaps Notebook LM is the best AI tool. You upload that 10-page or 20-page, only the relevant information as desired by you will come out. But that will
Sir,
not happen in case of
sir, sorry to interrupt you. What is your question? If you
no,
can be.
my question. I don't have a question. I am just adding a value to what Madam Kathryn said. I don't have a question actually. That concept of high accuracy, low accuracy, that again depends what you do and which tool particularly. What you do, she said, but again which tool you are using. That is also important. Say, for example, you are using a tool, Notebook LM, you get the particular information from the particular document. But if it's Perplexity or Gemini, you will get that information plus some additional information, unwanted informations, which may not be required by you or as desired by you or as planned by you. This point I just wanted to add. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you very much. Yes.
Fatima has raised her hand a little while ago. If you have any question, Fatima, you can. Shayan, if you want to ask anything, please do.
Uh, Good evening, ma'am. Ma'am, is there any chance of leaking sensitive information during the project compilation or project or report summarization?
So are you asking if you use an AI-powered tool to summarize sensitive information, is there a possibility of that information going elsewhere? Is that what I'm understanding?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, yes, there is. Although it wasn't in this presentation, please, guys, do not use AI-powered tools for anything sensitive. Anything that if you are working with a source who has told you something highly sensitive, or you're working with personal data, if you're working with personal financial data, if you want an AI powered tool to do your taxes for you, please don't do that. That's very high risk to you. It's high risk to your sources. Something we also need to be mindful of is that we need to be conscious of who are these companies that create these tools. If we are using a free version of these tools or a paid version, what does that mean in terms of the data protection and the privacy of the data that we put into these tools? So my rule of thumb is that I only use a tool if I have a paid version or access to a paid version, and I'm not going to input anything into that model that I wouldn't be able to share with the public. Okay, so again, you really want to be conscious of how you use these tools. In the communication space, I have done work before with UN agencies, with the WHO. As journalists, sometimes we get access to embargoed documents or embargoed reports, meaning we can't publish it into a certain date. If you take an embargoed document or an embargoed report and you put it into a free version of some tool, you've lost control of that document because you're not really sure actually where it's going to go or who it's going to be used by. There have been cases, and you can research this online, where people's conversations with ChatGPT have been made public. So if you are using a free version of a tool, you are giving away access to your privacy in that sense. So if you're using a free version of a tool, it's like you're doing a public post on Facebook. Let's put it that way. So please don't put sensitive information into these models. And yeah, just if you don't want it in public, don't put it in a free version of these models.
Okay, good evening. Please, can I talk?
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you for the insightful lecture and everything. My question is that how about like I got, I go to the feed and I got my data and I put in my story and everything. Though, though I now went to AI tools like ChatGPT and the rest, like to improve my story. Does it mean I'm giving my story? I'm like giving my story to other sources or what? Because I don't really get that clear. Because I'm the only one that actually know about the information. The information is in my care. putting it on ChatGPT for improvement, like improving my writing? Am I giving it away? Am I giving my information away or what? I don't understand.
So my advice would be, when you're using these tools, I can't answer yes or no. What I can tell you is that when you're using these tools, if whatever you are putting into them doesn't necessarily mean that's where it's going to stay. That doesn't mean that they can't use that information, that these companies aren't using that information maybe to train their models, that it won't be able to be, someone might be able to access that information. So again, before using any of these tools for journalistic purposes, check what the user agreement says, check what the data privacy policy is, and actually look at, if I use this tool, what does that mean? The information I'm inputting into this tool, where does it go? And again, this is a personal preference of mine. I only have a paid ChatGPT account, and that is the only tool I use because it is paid. I also, however, I use an encrypted email account. I use a VPN. I use a VPN on my phone as well. I'm very conscious of my own data security and my data privacy in my own work as a journalist. So with AI-powered tools, again, they're extremely convenient. Okay, and that is part of the appeal and part of the temptation of these tools is it is extremely easy to use and extremely convenient, but it comes at a cost. There's no such thing as free. We know this. There's no such thing as free. So if you are using a free tool to help you write an article, that is coming at a cost. What that cost is, I'm not 100% sure. I would have to look at the user agreements and the privacy policies, but that is something to be aware of.
Anyone else? Any question from anyone else?
Hello, am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah, this is Jhumu. Kathryn, my question is that I'm a media educator, and in journalism school, mostly the students, what we are teaching them that how to write a journalistic copy and as well as how to produce a perfect audiovisual content and how to write blogs, etc., etc. But right now, at the age of AI driven journalism, what is your take and opinion that how much stress we should give or how much ratio or the focus we should give on AI tool training for the students?
Thank you so much for that question. And it's a great question to ask. Just over a month ago, I was at my journalism school doing this full training over 2 days with a group of about 25 to 30 students. And the biggest takeaway that I got from training with them is that students are smart, right? University varsity students, they're smart. And if you present the information to them about what these tools are, what this group of technology is, how it actually works, and the pitfalls associated with this technology, whether it's the bias inherent in the models, the type of data that these models are trained off of, and the fact that they aren't very accurate, right? That they can hallucinate, they can make stuff up, and that there's real social harms and consequences associated with that. That really resonated with the students that I trained. I mean, they were really shocked. They thought, wow, ChatGPT can be wrong. Well, absolutely, it can be wrong, and it can be exceptionally wrong, right? So I think that by presenting the information about this is what these group of technologies are, this is what they can be used for, this is not what they can be used for, and these are the consequences, and this is how it can go wrong. I find that students need to be given, almost like you need to equip students with this toolbox when it comes to using AI technologies. You're not going to be able to tell them, please don't use AI, because they will. It doesn't matter. They're going to use it anyways, right? They need to be able to make informed decisions about how to use these technologies and how to use them ethically and in a way that is low risk and low accuracy. So again, a gentleman said earlier, AI technologies are like an assistant. They are like an assistant, but whatever the assistant does, you have to check it because you're the boss. And that's the recommendation I would make is, the Pulitzer Center has put together this really amazing Spotlight Series training that really breaks down what these technologies are, how they're made, the bias, how that impacts us as journalists, how to use them in a newsroom. So much information, and I would recommend you as an educator to take a look at that and maybe look at incorporating that into your curriculum or sharing it with your students, because I think that could be really helpful.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jumar. I think we are on time. So let me thank you on behalf of Media Skills Lab. Uh, I extend my sincere gratitude to our esteemed speaker for sharing such a valuable insight on the topic that we have selected today. Your perspective have truly enriched our understanding of the challenges and responsibilities in the today's fast evolving media landscape, along with AI. Since we are adopting AI in a very large scale, at the same time, I would like to thank all of you participants for joining us and engaging so thoughtfully in the session. Your presence and curiosity has made this discussion more meaningful and impactful. We look forward to your continued participation in our upcoming sessions. Thank you once again. Thank you, Kath. Thank you, everyone.